Hi friends, Prepared Suburbanite here. I recently posted a video a couple of months ago called Prepping Rice and Beans for the Right Reason. And I got a lot of really good feedback and a lot of great comments and suggestions and all that. The whole gist of that video was that I've dedicated a portion of my food preps to be stored away separately, basically rice and beans and some seasonings, that kind of stuff, to be able to give away to friends and neighbors when the S hits the fan. Some of the comments that I got, while most of them were very positive and very supportive of the idea, some of the comments were not quite so supporting. So I want to get into those comments and my reactions right after this. I'll see you soon. All right, here's some of the negative comments and feedback that I got. If you feed someone for a day, they will be back every day thereafter. Helping out will backfire on you. It's only a secret when you know it's just yourself. Your hungry neighbors will blame you for everything when you turn the food off. Second comment, when you stop giving, they become your enemy. Don't feed your neighbors. I know people will show up at my door when that happens. The only thing they're getting is a gun barrel in their face. Charity will get you killed. Today's friend might become tomorrow's enemy. I will turn away everyone, even if I have to shoot them. I think it's a mistake to think you can feed your neighbors. Now, those were the summary of the negative, opposite opinion comments that I got in response to that prepping video about rice and beans for the right reasons. What we're really talking about is a moral responsibility. We're talking about a Christian responsibility. The S is going to hit the fan one day. What day that's going to be, I don't know. What the S is going to look like, I don't know. I suspect it's not too far away, but we need to be ready for it. Why would we live our lives so much differently after the S hits the fan than we do currently? I volunteer at my church, I volunteer at the local food bank, and I get a lot of personal satisfaction out of my commitment to helping my neighbors. Now, they don't have to live next door. They can be in my same community, in my neighborhood, in the same city. But I do get a level of personal satisfaction when I can take a day and help out with certain charity type operations and organizations. When it comes to the day when the shit hits the fan, does that mean that we pack away all our morals and all our ethics in an attempt to simply protect ourselves? I did a lot of soul searching. I did a lot of research. I looked at a lot of other websites, a lot of other survival type blogs, trying to figure out if there's a consensus out there. And the only consensus that I could really find is that nobody can agree. There are those in the camp that say, take care of your family first, take care of yourself first, defend your property at all costs, don't violate your operational security by letting people know that you have extra food. You're supposed to wear clothes that are a size too big to make it look like you've lost weight, so that you're in the same boat as everybody else, that you turn away people. And then there's another camp that's very active in a commitment to their morals and their ethics. And I fancy myself in that group. Now, with that said, I think the real question that I had to ask myself was, what would Jesus want me to do? Well, John 13:34 says, "A new command I give you, love one another. As I have loved you, so you must love one another." That's not conditional. That doesn't depend on a circumstance. That's a command. Jesus goes on to say in Matthew 25:40, "Verily I say unto you, inasmuch as ye have done it unto the one of the least of these my brethren, ye have done it unto me." Jesus goes on with that story about that he's talking to his disciples about, and puts himself in the place of people that were in need of help, and those that did go out of their way to provide that help were actually helping Jesus, and that Jesus was that person. Now that's how I was brought up. That's been kind of a cornerstone of my outlook on life for a number of my adult years. Not saying that when I was a teenager it was a whole lot different. I was probably a lot more selfish then, but as you age, these lessons kind of come into play. Well, first let me say that my primary responsibility is to my family, and I won't sacrifice my family for the sake of others, but I will invest in helping a neighbor and rebuilding a community after the S hits the fan. Jesus says in 1 Timothy, "But if any provide not for his own, and specially for those of his own house, he hath denied the faith, and is worse than an infidel." So there's a number of biblical lessons, there's a number of biblical teachings. These are coming out of the mouth of Jesus. He's giving us the blueprint for how we need to behave. And it's not conditional. It doesn't matter if we've had an EMP or if we're under attack by a foreign power. It's just not conditional. Would I trade a bullet for a meal? Would I murder a needy family and place their heads on pikes at my perimeter of my property to ward off others, and then salt their meat down and make jerky? That was a suggestion that I picked up off of one of the other websites that I looked at. Now, I can't imagine doing anything like that, but I would think that it would probably ward away a number of people from knocking on your door and asking for food. So I guess it would have some effect. But to go through that kind of a thing, can you actually bring yourself to murder someone in need because they're asking for a handout or asking for some food? Are the morals going to change that much after the S hits the fan? I hope not. Would you trade a meal for servitude? For even when we were with you, the Lord says, we commanded you that if any would not work, neither should he eat. Now that comes from 2 Thessalonians, and it's basically a recanting of past history that said, you know, if you're not willing to chip in, you don't get to eat. And maybe there's some good logic in there as well. So who's most likely to be knocking on your door after the shit hits the fan? Well, elderly, the infirmed, the disabled, families with small children, single moms, non-preppers, I would think goes right to the head of that list, or preppers that are victims of theft or a fire or destruction of their food stores. There's going to be folks that are going to be in that situation. And what would you do if you found yourself in that situation? There's a great post on the Prepper Journal, and I'll post a link in the video commentary here, by a person named Pat Henry. These are the ground rules. Never let a stranger into your house. People entering your property should be searched, preferably with plenty of security away from your home. Never answer the door without a plan for alternative points of entry, meaning guard the back door too. The best plan is to not let anyone get to your door without your knowledge. Never dispense charity from your in-house stores. Work for food. If you plan on giving out charity, make it the result of work. If they work for a full day, feed them for a full day. Now, that's Pat Henry's ground rules for charitable giving after the shit hits the fan. I think it's a good blueprint. It's a great place to start. You've got to have this square in your mind. You've got to be square with yourself. You've got to be square with whatever God you believe in and what's the right thing to do. And you've got to ask yourself that question. What is the right thing to do? And why would the right thing to do be so different after the shit hits the fan than it is before? I've got a number of ready-to-go charity bags, charity packages. I bought those small, what are they, 2-gallon, 3-gallon plastic pails from a local hardware store, and I filled them up with rice, beans, and some seasonings, and a few other little goodies here and there, maybe a candy bar, that kind of a thing, just to be able to hand out to someone that could come knocking on my door. The community that I live in is a very diverse population. Right next door, I've got a middle-aged couple. They've got a daughter in college. They spend a lot of time outdoors. We've become friends with them. I'm not 100% sure if they're into prepping. We haven't had that discussion, but we are friendly. I would be willing to help them at any time that they would need it. They've been willing to share with us. They offer. They're just good people. Across the street, we've got a couple with 3 kids, and they raise chickens. They've got a beehive. In fact, they have 2 beehives now, and they're really into self-sufficiency. I'm not sure if they've got tons of food storage and all that, but there's 3 young kids that live in that household. There's a girl about 6 years old, a girl about 8 years old, and a boy about 11 years old. And they're great kids. They come over here all the time. They just love playing with the dog. They come over and chat, tell us how things are going in school. The young boy has been somewhat helpful around here, volunteering to help rake leaves and mow the lawn and those kinds of things. So I think he's got his head on straight and he's pointed in the right direction. Would I be willing to help them? Yes, I would. Probably without them even asking. The commenters that were willing to initially use violence to protect themselves strike me as terrifying. That just isn't the way we're supposed to be living our lives. Folks that would say, I would just shoot them first, they'd find a barrel in their face. I'm sorry, but that's not the way human nature really is. Maybe I'm naive. Maybe I've got a lot of faith in humanity. Maybe it's unwarranted. Maybe I should be scared. I'm not. I'm committed to being a good neighbor, to becoming a member of the community that rebuilds after the shit hits the fan. I suspect that that person that I'm going to help, it may get them over a rough spot so that they can begin to get themselves back on their feet. And maybe, just maybe, they'll pay it forward. Maybe, just maybe, they'll pay it back. Maybe their son or daughter is going to help my grandson or my granddaughter. Who knows? But if I immediately go out and pop the guy in the head with a AR-15 because he's walking up my driveway with his hand out, I'm pretty sure I'm going to make an enemy right then and there. Could you really bring yourself to murder someone for the cost of a meal? Yeah, there's some logic in that argument that would say, my family comes first. But I just can't imagine a scenario where a mild-mannered single mom with a crying 3-year-old child comes knocking on my door and says, can you help us out? We don't have any food. I just can't imagine anybody with a heart so cold as to pull up a handgun or a rifle and blow her brains out and then turn that same gun on that child. It makes no sense to me at all. That's not who we are. Let's talk about operational security, Operation Security, OPSEC. I don't make it a policy to advertise my preps, to advertise the level of preparedness that we've got here at this homestead to anybody. I don't think there's folks at my church where I spend a lot of time. I don't think there's anybody there that really understands that we've got enough food to feed our family for 8 to 9 months right here. We've got a garden that can produce hundreds of pounds of food. Now, it ain't going to be prepared. It ain't going to be growing too much between November and April, but if we can make it till good weather, I've got enough seeds, I've got enough equipment, and I've got enough know-how to be able to create a pretty productive garden that can certainly augment what we've got. As far as advertising my preps, well, yeah, I guess I've been criticized already because I have a YouTube channel and I talk about being prepared and being prepared always. I've talked about my water supply, I've talked about food supplies, I've talked about get-home bags and bug-out bags and survivalism and bug-out location and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, I've been criticized for breaking OPSEC, but you know, I suppose if somebody really wanted to track me down using social media or using whatever clues I may have left around in various videos, that they could probably find me somewhere. I think folks know that I'm in North Carolina, but that's a pretty big state. They may know I'm in Wake County. Well, that's a pretty big county, but to try to find me in a population density area of 2+ million people might be a little difficult. So I don't believe that I've specifically betrayed my personal operational security here. I don't advertise it. I don't believe that my neighbors have a clue as to what we've got stockpiled here and what we're ready for. I think simply keeping things quiet, not advertising your level of preparedness, goes a long way to fulfill your mission of operational security. I know that there's a number of people that do advertise what they've got, and that they're proudly displaying their preps to folks all over the neighborhood, and that they're out actively seeking prepper partners in their neighborhoods. I'm not so inclined to do that. I don't have any control about who lives in my neighborhood. Should the fear of being held hostage, being threatened, being killed by your neighbors deter you from doing the right thing? Some people really do enjoy living in fear. I don't think that's a good, positive thing to do. I believe that if we stick with the ethics and the morals that have made us the people that we are, good, upstanding, charitable Christians, that we will be able to prevail and carry on and rebuild for the future. My wife and I had a lot of discussions about this particular topic before we actually committed to putting some of our preps aside to be able to give away after the shit hits the fan to those that may need a boost, that may need some help. Yeah, it's a difficult decision. Do you sacrifice your family to feed a neighbor? Gee, I'm not so sure that that's the right question to ask. I think the right question to ask is, do we have a moral responsibility to help our fellow man in times of need? I believe that the Lord will take care of us, and He will take care of those who have taken care of themselves. Yeah, we're ready, and we have excess. We're blessed, and I feel because we're blessed that we have a responsibility to share that blessing with others. This is the Prepared Suburbanite reminding you to be prepared always, and I'm out for now.